It's a lovely good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight. Patriotic Front NAKONDE MP challenges government to close the LGBTQI clinic at UTH. The Zambia Police Service Commission to prune bad eggs from the service. Two LUSAKA women in court for stealing a wedding dress. In international news, malnutrition in mothers soars in 12 countries, putting women and babies at risk. And in sports news, UEFA to refund Liverpool fans who had tickets for the 2022 Champions League final.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Hello again, another news in detail. The Director of Public Prosecution, Gilbert Perry, says it was within his powers to revoke the immunity of former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingo Lungu and subject him to prosecution. The DPP has told the Constitutional Court that it has power to review a decision to prosecute in line with Section 8, Cap 2, adding that the contempt proceedings commenced by Mr. Lungu against it is scandalous, frivolous, vexatious, and an abuse of court process. This is in a matter where Mr. Milingo Lungu is seeking contempt proceedings against the Director of Public Prosecutions, Gilbert Perry, for revoking his immunity from prosecution in the case where he was charged with abuse of authority of office and possession of properties deemed to be proceeds of crime. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court has given the former KCM provisional liquidator a leeway to file the record of motion out of time. More in this report.
The Director of Public Prosecution, DPP Gilbert Perry, has backed his decision to revoke the immunity of former Konkola Copper Mines Provisional Liquidator Milingo Lungu, adding that he was within his powers to review the decision to prosecute Mr. Lungu because Section 8(2) gives him the powers to do so. In this matter, the former KCM Provisional Liquidator has filed an application before the Constitutional Court seeking a court order to commence contempt proceedings against the DPP, Mr. Perry, for revoking his immunity from prosecution. In his submission before court, the DPP says it is not in dispute that the immunity agreement was revoked. However, the law is superior to any contract or agreement, and any agreement contrary to the laws can be vitiated, adding that the reviewing and revoking of the immunity agreement was done in good faith and in the exercise of the DPP's function, and that the matter is a mere manifestation of Mr. Lungu's desire to undermine the cause of justice and interfere with the DPP's legitimate exercise of power. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court has given the former KCM Provisional Liquidator a go-ahead to file the record of motion out of time. In this matter, Mr. Milingo Lungu is seeking contempt proceedings against the Director of Public Prosecution, Gilbert Perry, for revoking his immunity from prosecution in the case where he was charged with abuse of authority of office and possession of property deemed to be proceeds of crime. Mr. Lungu says on the 17th of March 2022, he entered into a non-prosecution or immunity agreement with the former DPP, exempting him from prosecution for acts done in the performance of his duties as provisional liquidator of KCM. However, when Mr. Perry was sworn in as DPP, he announced at a press conference that he had revoked the immunity agreement granted to him based on public outcry. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Two Lusaka women have been dragged to court for allegedly stealing a wedding dress valued at 4,500 kwacha. 24-year-old Jenny Shamalala, a hairdresser, and 21-year-old Grace Chanda, a sales lady, have been dragged to court by their employer Chilandom Kandawire. The state has charged them with one count of theft by servant, contrary to Section 272 and 278 of the Penal Code. Allegations are that the accused on the 14th of January stole a wedding dress, and it was only discovered by the employer when a client came to purchase the said dress. A state witness has testified before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court that there was nothing illegal for Ndozo Lodges and Molozi Company to own vehicles. Shadrach Chozo, an assistant station manager at the Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA, was testifying in a matter in which former President Edgar Lungu's associate and Ndozo Lodges proprietor Clint Sichamba is facing 133 counts in relation to acquiring property believed to have been corruptly gained. He has been jointly charged with his wife, son, and the company. The witness in his further testimony told Magistrate Irene Wishimanga that the accused met all the requirements and procedures when they purchased the said motor vehicles. More in this report.
The court has entered day 2 into trial in a matter in which a Lusaka businessman and Ndozo Lodges proprietor Clint Sichamba and others are facing corruption charges before the subordinate court in Lusaka. Tuesday, the accused appeared once again before the Economic Financial Crimes Court, where the court has held that there was nothing illegal for Ndozo Lodges and Molozi Company to own vehicles. Shadrach Njozo, an assistant station manager at the Road Transport and Safety Agency, took the stand in the witness dock and told Lusaka Magistrate Irene Wishimanga that wife to Mr. Sichamba, Edora Nambila, had 4 motor vehicles registered in her name. However, she followed all the requirement procedure. He also indicated that Ndozo Lodges Limited had 10 vehicles, while Molozi Trading Limited had 26, and that the accused met all the requirement and procedure when they purchased the said motor vehicles. Former President Edgar Lungu's associate, Mr. Sichamba, is standing trial to 133 counts charges bordering on corruptly acquiring property. He is standing trial alongside his wife Edora Nambila and son David. The trio have been jointly charged with Ndozo Lodges and Molozi Trading Limited co-directors and shareholders. Mr. Sichamba, his wife Edora Nambila and son David are alleged to have been in possession of over 781 million kwacha and more than 10 million United States dollars. The trio was also arrested for possession of properties suspected of being proceeds of crime. The matter stands adjourned. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Patriotic Front NAKONDE Member of Parliament Lucas Simomba has challenged the United Party for National Development UPND government to close the gay clinic at the University Teaching Hospital UTH as one way of proving that they do not support gay rights. Speaking in Parliament Tuesday afternoon, Mr. Simomba is of the view that while the clinic was established during the PF regime, it is incumbent upon the UPND to close it down now that it is in office, to end all accusations that the current administration is in support of gayism. Meanwhile, PF members of Parliament Tuesday afternoon walked out of Parliament after the second Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Moyo, asked the PF MP from Kana constituency, Binwe Mpundu, to leave the House for disorderly conduct. This was after independent Petauke Member of Parliament, Emmanuel Banda, expressed concern over the said Saturday march past in a manner the second Deputy Speaker viewed as unruly, as he was using unpalatable language in Parliament after he repeated chants made by the group when protesting on Saturday. More in this report.
Honorable member Fonkana leave the house. Sergeant at arms, ensure that he leaves the house.
The issue of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex plus, which has been trending since Saturday 4th March 2023, after the Sister Foundation, resulted in a heated debate in Parliament Tuesday, and even saw some Patriotic Front PF members of Parliament, as they felt that those inquiring on the same were being blocked from doing so. Nkana Member of Parliament Bino Mpundu was asked to go out of the House by Second Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Moses Moyo after he protested the decision by the Second Deputy Speaker to cut short the question by Petauke Member of Parliament Mano Banda, who was asking on the same, after Mr. Banda allegedly repeated the insulting language that was being used by the protesters during the march past. This saw PF MPs walking out of Parliament in solidarity with Nkana MP Bino Mpundu, who was ushered out by the Sergeant at Arms. Meanwhile, PF MPs took turns accusing the UPND of being in support of gay rights. PF NAKONDE Member of Parliament Lucas Simumba questioned why the UPND government has not closed down the gay clinic at the University Teaching Hospital UTH.
Mr. Speaker, my question is, why have you created a clinic at UTH which is in operation if you don't support gayism? And if you found that clinic in operation, why haven't you closed it? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
In responding, Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Jack Mwimbu challenged that the same was open during the PF administration.
You go to UTH and find out from the officers there and find out from the leaders of PF who were in government then, who are here. They will tell you that they are the ones who created that clinic. Don't blame us. You should be the ones to tell us why you created it.
The debate continued in Parliament.
Are being persuaded by certain individuals who are known to ensure and make the public lose faith in the UPND. When we know that those who are doing that have been conniving and cohabiting with those who believe in gayism. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
If you are to go to Honorable Minister of Justice constituency in Baulen in the evening, what we witness there, it has never happened in this country. What action are you taking to ensure that those who not only collude, but also promote these unnatural and Zambian acts, and African acts actually, are brought to book?
I would urge the Honorable Member of Parliament to report that illegal act which he witnessed and where he was, uploading, and he has evidence. Let him go and report to the police, Mr. Speaker.
Meanwhile, Zambia Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale says the Zambia Police has charged and arrested 4 people in connection with the march, among them the founder of the Sister Foundation, Gladys Mwangala, adding that those arrested will appear in court soon. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka. The
Zambia Cybersecurity Foundation, ZCSF, says there is need to phase out the requirements of national registration cards, NRC copies, when registering SIM cards, and instead require hard copies as one way of curbing cyber crimes. Speaking to Camnet News, Foundation President John Tisenke notes that a number of criminals are using stolen photocopies of people's NRCs to register SIM cards and commit crimes. His call comes in the wake of the discovery made on Sunday, 5th March 2023, by the Zambia police in Lusaka, where 2 people were arrested for the offense of being in possession of 119 Zanako automated teller machine ATM cards and 94 SIM cards for Airtel and MTN. He has also called for increased desensitization on such crimes to ensure that members of the public are well informed.
They should really, I think, secure the system more in terms of what they require. Right now, by using card registration just requires you to give them an NRC number, not the actual NRC copy. If we get to the NRC copy, it's going to be a good thing. And also, the best way that we can really protect, and also the police can also protect the masses, let them have proper enforcement in terms of knowledge of their digital security and forensics departments, so that people can have confidence in what the police are able to do, so that tomorrow, if I say I've been duped or anything, I go to the police, I'll simply get help there and then. Some cases have gone trashed in the trash can because of, I think, lack of expertise or knowledge in terms of how to handle those cases. The government should still invest in the police, take police, forensic department experts, workers, staff, to go and learn proper forensics on how to definitely even get to also hack phones and gadgets, using the laws, of course, okay, of people that are scamming, and also working with ZICTA. ZICTA is doing a good job in registering, closing down SIM cards that are being used by scammers to scam people. It's a good thing, but I thought it's not enough. If you block my SIM card, have you blocked me? Okay, so I'll still another SIM card. So the best way is not just to block SIM cards in there. The best way is block the SIM card, get the person in the SIM card, and also arrest them and let the law work with them. Otherwise, just blocking SIM cards, people are still going to be there out there and they still continue with their scams.
The Zambia Police Service Commission has embarked on the process of weeding out bad eggs from the system in order to ensure professionalism and effective service provision. Commission Chairperson Peter Machungwa told a media briefing in Lusaka Tuesday during a familiarization tour across the country that it was observed that vices such as alcohol abuse, corruption and negligence were highly prevalent. And Dr. Machungwa says the Commission will not entertain any misconduct and those who fail to reform will be dismissed instantly. He disclosed that some officers have served for as long as 30 years without promotion, with many holding the rank of constable, a situation he said will be addressed going forward. He says so far over 900 officers have since been promoted to various ranks.
The role police play in fostering peace and security can never be overemphasized, but it must be noted that their work is not without shortcomings. Tuesday, 7th March 2023, the Zambia Police Service Commission disclosed during a press conference in Lusaka that it had embarked on a program of touring police stations, training centers and border facilities to understand issues affecting men and women in uniform. Zambia Police Service Commission Chairperson Dr. Peter Machungwa explained that the service is facing the problem of inadequate and dilapidated infrastructure and lack of accommodation, issues bordering on discipline such as drunkenness and corruption, among others. He says they have since embarked on a process of weeding out bad eggs from the system in order to ensure professionalism in the service.
The Commission gave them a stern warning that they risk serious disciplinary action, which will include dismissal from the police service or immigration service. This also applies to those officers who may not have transgressed but have not performed certain activities or duties which they are supposed to perform. They've ignored and gotten away with it. As a matter of fact, the Commission has already started disciplining, even weeding out officers who have been found wanting. So we want to motivate, but we want the bad eggs to be weeded out.
He also informed the press that some officers have served for as long as 30 years without promotion, with many holding the rank of constable, a situation he said will be addressed going forward.
When it comes to motivating and recognizing deserving officers, the Commission has promoted about 915 police officers to various ranks and also immigration officers. Among those promoted are officers who have performed very well but have been languishing at one rank for a very long time. In other words, they have never tasted promotion for many years.
And Dr. Machungwa believes that police were also taken by surprise on the recent gender-based violence march that turned into a parade to champion homosexuality in Zambia.
Want to be demonstrating against gender-based violence. And when they go and change their tune and begin, maybe the officers were even shocked and surprised, because just like members of the public, they were shocked. Those will be given so that they can understand these things. It's unfortunate. This is a Christian country. And if they do it in some other countries abroad, it will not come to Zambia. Maybe in the next 100 years it will not come here.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take our first commercial break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. The Consumer Rights National Organizing Committee has underscored the need for a transition to cleaner, renewable sources of energy in the country, saying energy consumption should not come at a cost of the environment. Committee Chairperson Kutemba Foloshi has charged that over-dependence on fossil fuels is a major contributor to pollution and climate change on the global level. Speaking during a press briefing ahead of the World Consumer Rights Day, which falls on the 15th of March, Ms. Foloshi says consumers should be included in the energy transition process as an integral part of the energy shift. Ms. Foloshi explains that the consumer rights is everyone's right to know about the value, integrity, cost and quality of different items, commodities and services across the globe. The 2023 World Consumer Rights Day will be celebrated under the theme Empowering Consumers Through Clean Energy Transitions.
Our energy consumption should not come at a cost to the environment. Renewable sources such as solar, wind, hydropower, and biomass make this possible. With these options, we can generate energy that does not pollute our air or eradicate habitats for wildlife creatures. We can also diversify our energy sources. Everyone, from a small family to a school or factory, can choose how they produce their energy. Zambia will, on the 15th of March, join the rest of the world in commemorating the World Consumer Rights Day under the theme, Empowering Consumers Through Clean Energy Transitions. This day is celebrated to inform consumers their rights and demands in order to empower them to combat society issues. Consumer rights refers to everyone's right to know about the value, integrity, cost, and quality of different items, commodities, and services all over the globe. Furthermore, to raise awareness of the customer's rights, this worldwide event is held every year. In line with this year's theme, putting people at the center of energy transitions means ensuring people's basic needs for energy services are met equitably, delivering decent jobs and worker protection, and promoting inclusive social and economic development. These are essential to delivering change at the pace and scale required to avoid catastrophic climate change. What is our role as consumers, the largest group of economic stakeholders in these changes? How can we be protected and empowered in clean energy transition?
Non-state actors have urged government to put in place policies that will see women, girls, children, people with disabilities and other marginalized groups have access to the digital space, noting that there is currently a digital information gap as most electronic gadgets are beyond their reach. Operation Young Vote Executive Director Ges Nyirenda notes that with the introduction of the online voter registration and the country moving towards online voting, there is need to ensure digital inclusion. Meanwhile, Governance, Elections, Advocacy, Research Services, GEARS Programs Coordinator Gideon Musonda observes that the digital space has become one of the most preferred modes of information sharing, stating that this therefore indicates that those who are not on the platform will be left behind. They were speaking to Camnet News after a stakeholder sensitization workshop on digital rights by the Media Institute of Southern Africa, MISA Zambia, on Tuesday. More in this report.
The fate of electorates in rural areas, those living below the poverty line, as well as marginalized groups comprising women, girls, and persons with disabilities, has become a concern for stakeholders, as most gadgets from which they can access the internet are costly, leaving them lagging behind in information. This is so because the internet has become one of the most preferred modes of information dissemination, with some newspapers working solely on the digital space. The digital information gap that has affected this group has posed as a source of concern for the Media Institute for Southern Africa, MISA, who convened a workshop for various stakeholders in Lusaka aimed at discussing digital rights. Speaking to Camnet News after the workshop, Operation Young Vote Executive Director Ges Nyirenda says digital rights should be viewed as human rights.
Because then remember that because these are human rights, they also affect our participation and engagement in the electoral process. And when we begin to talk about, online voting, we begin to talk about online registration and so on and so forth. These are digital rights, and these must actually be accessed by each and every individual. And this is when now we begin to talk about inclusion. And when we talk about inclusion, we do not specify to say, no, it is this group or that group. It must just be across the board, and every Zambian who actually, qualifies in terms of us being on the digital platform.
Meanwhile, Governance, Elections, Advocacy, Research Services, GEARS Programs Coordinator Gideon Musonda states that in an event of a shrinking civic space, the internet offers alternatives.
You may be aware that in the just in the recent past, there was a situation where we experienced the shrinking civic space. So what it meant was the issue of how can people participate in the online space, and so that goes with those rights that need to be enjoyed.
MISA National Coordinator Austin Kayanda has also spoken on digital rights.
We tried to share in terms of what laws are impacting on their work and what laws they can use to advocate for the change in terms of enjoyment of these digital rights. As you are aware, the digital rights platform is basically enshrined in the Zambian constitution under freedom of expression. But at the same time, you have 21 laws that takes away that freedom of enjoyment of that right.
They therefore state that it is imperative to introduce policies that will ensure that all citizens are included. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Now, the cost of living for a family of 5, as measured by the Justice Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR Basic Needs and Nutrition Basket, BANB, for the month of February 2023 in Lusaka has increased by 230 kwacha, 75 ingwe. The upward movement in the basket is attributed to increased prices in food items such as fruits, carpenter, and other food items. JCTR also observes that during the month under review, the Energy Regulation Board pump price of petroleum products rose significantly, while the local currency continued to depreciate against major currencies such as the US dollar. Furthermore, the month of January saw an increase in meal prices, which resulted in an increase in the prices of substitutes such as rice and cassava flour in the month of February.
Message for International Women's Day: embrace equity in addressing the cost of living. The cost of living for a family of 5, as measured by the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, Basic Needs and Nutrition Basket, in the month of February 2023, stood at 9,278 kwacha. This reflects an increase of approximately 230 kwacha, 0.75 from the basket as measured in January. The upward movement in the basket is attributed to the increased prices in food items such as 14 kilograms of other fruits that went up by 320 kwacha, carpenter 1 kilogram, and 6 kilograms of cassava flour that went up by 88 and 66 kwacha, among others. The non-food basket item of particular interest noted a decrease in the price of 290 kilograms bags of charcoal, which went down by approximately 300 kwacha. Among other factors, this could be attributed to the reduced load shedding in the country. The JCTR does observe that during the month of reflection, the Energy Regulation Board pump prices of petroleum products rose significantly, while the local currency, the kwacha, continued to depreciate. Furthermore, the month of January saw an increase in the price of meal, which has resulted in the increased prices of substitutes such as rice and cassava flour in the month of February. It is worth noting that the prices of other fruits increased as mangoes went out of season.
Northwestern Province Permanent Secretary Gladson Katambi has commended First Quantum Minerals Trident for empowering livestock farmers with 10 breeding bulls at a cost of 200,000 kwacha in Kalumbila district. Colonel Katambi added that the support is aimed at improving the local cattle breed in the district. The Permanent Secretary was speaking when he graced the handover of 10 breeding bulls to the livestock farmers in Kalumbila of the Northwestern Province. And Trident Foundation Limited Community Affairs Manager Joseph Ngwira says the donation of the animals will enhance and add value to the development of the livestock sector in Kalumbila district. Nais has more.
It was a joyous moment for these livestock farmers in Kalumbila district. They have received 10 breeding bulls at a cost of 200,000 kwacha from FQM Trident in partnership with the Ministry of Fish and Livestock in Northwestern Province. The donation is aimed at improving the local cattle breed in the district. Northwestern Province Permanent Secretary Gladson Katambi graced the handover ceremony.
Allow me to thank FQM Trident for giving out these bulls procured at an estimated cost of 200,000 kwacha with the objective of improving the local cattle breed around this area of Kalumbila. May I also extend my gratitude to the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock for collaborating with FQM Trident in organizing this event. May I strongly indicate that I have no doubt that this program of cattle breed improvement around the Musele community of Kalumbila district will change the economic landscape of the local people in this district.
For FQM Trident and the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, the donation is timely.
and also to appreciate the job that your government has done, specifically the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Livestock. They've been around with us for some time and they take us through all the technical issues, and if we have questions, their office is open for support. These are some of the benefits that as a community and through Trident Foundation Limited, we are working hard and working together with government and with you as community members to see how we can enhance the value in this engine that is in our community. My humble appeal is that from today's donation, we look forward to having our own meat supply from this community to feed employees so that part of that income can go back to the community. It will require working together, quality improvement, and also support from government.
Community-based breeding programs increases the productivity and profitability of indigenous breeds. Mr. Ngwira, sir, poverty, inequality, social injustice are the very vices that undermines social cohesion in a shared society. You cannot bring all these massive assets surrounded by poverty. What you are doing is recommendable. It's happening in some parts of Zambia. I've just explained Southern Province. So it's very recommendable, sir. Continue. We have seen what you are doing, not only in livestock, we have done it in fisheries. You are doing it in agroforestry. You are doing so many wonderful jobs.
Karumbira District Farmers Association and the beneficiaries are excited with the support.
And they have started demonstrating that they have ears and they hear. This, what they have done today, is a very commendable thing. We applaud them for the good gesture that they have done. We are requesting that you can just walk a little further and provide reference. We also need the neighbors.
Kriva Chituta, reporting in Karumbira District, Northwestern Province.
This is Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with more news in international and sports.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet Television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet Television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
And in international news, according to a UNICEF report unveiled Monday, March 6, 12 countries, among whom 10 are in Africa, are hardest hit by the global food and nutrition crisis among adolescent girls and women. The report calls for governments, development and humanitarian partners and donors, civil society organizations and development actors to transform food, health and social protection systems for adolescent girls and women. 5.5 million pregnant and breastfeeding adolescent girls and women suffered of acute malnutrition in 2020. 6.9 million are now affected. Undernourished and overlooked, a global nutrition crisis in adolescent girls and women issued ahead of International Women's Day warns that the ongoing crisis, aggravated by ongoing gender inequality, are deepening a nutrition crisis among adolescent girls and women that has showed little improvement. Here's a roundup of international news for more.
The number of pregnant and breastfeeding adolescent girls and women suffering from acute malnutrition has soared. A report released by UNICEF Monday revealed there were 5.5 million in 2020, 6.9 million are now affected. This Malagasy hospital provides care for malnourished mothers and children. My name is Maho. We are here because there is no rain and there is famine in our community. The lack of food has affected our health. When my daughter gave birth, she did not have enough to eat and could not produce enough milk for her baby. The baby has severe forms of malnutrition because the mother does not have enough milk to feed him. Currently, both mother and child are not in good health. South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa are the epicenter of the nutrition crisis. Inadequate nutrition during girls' and women's lives can lead, among other things, to an increased risk of life-threatening complications with irreversible consequences for their children's survival and future.
Burkina Faso has placed its northern region under a curfew as it steps up the pressure against insurgents. A regional official said in a statement that movement using any means was restricted from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. The curfew took effect on March 3rd and would last until March 31st. The official said that the measure was aimed at facilitating the operations of armed forces in the area. Burkina Faso's northern region borders Mali, another Sahel country on the front line of a militant insurgency. Two other provinces have also announced curfews between March 5th and 20th. Burkina Faso's army rulers have stepped up offensives against the insurgents who have prompted a humanitarian crisis in the country. In recent months, authorities have mobilized thousands of vigilante fighters to supplement regular forces and to help protect isolated villages from attacks. The country also kicked out French forces after accusing them of not doing enough to stop the militants.
Ramaphosa hopes that his new electricity minister will help curb the rampant corruption and mismanagement that have put the nation in the dark. In a cabinet reshuffle late Monday, South Africa's leader unveiled a new government of 11 ministers and 11 deputy ministers. The state-owned power utility has implemented nationwide rolling power cuts for years, but 2022 was the worst.
We are establishing two new ministries. The first of these is the Minister for Electricity to deal with the immediate crisis of load shedding. The second is the Minister with specific responsibility for planning, monitoring and evaluation to focus greater attention on the performance of government.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has faced protests across the country. The ever-worsening power crisis in which homes and businesses go without electricity for up to 10 hours a day is strangling Africa's most developed economy.
Our most immediate task is to drastically reduce the severity of load shedding in the coming months and ultimately end load shedding altogether.
Last month, the president declared a state of disaster to deal with the electricity shortages affecting the 60 million South Africans. Power utility Eskom, which turns 100 years old, is struggling with the frequent breakdowns of its coal-fired power stations. Ramaphosa also announced a new deputy president in the reshuffle and dropped his tourism minister.
It's now time for sports news. In our sports news tonight, UEFA is to refund Liverpool fans who had tickets for the 2022 Champions League final in Paris. It follows a recent independent report that found UEFA bears primary responsibility for the chaotic scenes before the game against Real Madrid. Fans were penned in and sprayed with tear gas outside Paris Stade de France as kickoff was delayed by 36 minutes. UEFA said the refund scheme covers all of the Liverpool FC ticket allocation for the final, which are 19,618 tickets. Liverpool were also part of the process of securing refunds for their fans, and as supporters bought tickets from them directly rather than UEFA, the club will administer the process. UEFA and French authorities initially blamed ticketless fans for the events outside the stadium. The report, which UEFA commissioned after the 28 May final, said there was no evidence to support the reprehensible claims. It added that it is remarkable no one lost their life, and the collective action of Liverpool supporters was probably instrumental in preventing more serious injuries and deaths outside the stadium. The report made 21 recommendations in an attempt to ensure everything possible is done to prevent any similar incident happening again at a major sporting event. That sporting item brings us to the end of our news tonight. But before we go, the top stories once again. Patriotic Front NAKONDE Member of Parliament challenges government to close the LGBTQI clinic at UTH. The Zambia Police Service commissioned to prune bad eggs from the service. 2 LUSAKA women in court for stealing a wedding dress. In international news, malnutrition in mothers soars in 12 countries, putting women and babies at risk, says UNICEF. And in sports news, UEFA to refund Liverpool fans who had tickets for 2022 Champions League final. Our Camnet verse of the day is coming from Colossians 1 verse 16. For by Jesus all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.